Amara, you need to level up your game in this social media. This social media thing is hard. I have tried everything, but nothing seems to be working. We need to do a prank video. Prank videos has a lot of views all over the internet. Prank videos? Yes, we are going to use your mother. She is old and really not looking king good. Good, she will be a perfect game.
Listen, come closer. Let me tell you a story. A story about a girl who was tired of her life. A girl who wanted the world to notice her. So she did something she thought would change everything. But instead, she traded her mother's love for a few seconds of fame. Amara was not poor. But she hated everything about her life. She hated the sound of her mother waking up before the sun. She hated the smell of the food her mother cooked to sell at the market. She hated the dusty road outside their home, the neighbors who talked too much, and the simple life that never seemed to change. Every morning, while her mother tied her wrapper and lifted heavy pots with tired hands, Amara lay on her mat, scrolling through her phone, watching other people live the life she wanted. Beautiful girls in expensive clothes. Young women eating at fancy restaurants. People getting millions of likes just for smiling at a camera. That was the life Amara wanted. Not this one. Her mother, Grace, never complained. Not once. She was a strong woman with rough hands and a soft heart. She sold rice, stew, and fried plantain at the market every day, rain or shine, just to make sure Amara ate well and had airtime on her phone. Grace did not fully understand social media. But she understood her daughter, and she loved her with everything she had. She would look at Amara sometimes and say, "My daughter, one day your life will be sweet. Just be patient." Amara would nod, but in her heart, she was already planning her escape. Patience was not something she had. And waiting was something she refused to do. The day everything changed began like any other. Amara was sitting on the veranda, scrolling, when she saw a video of her old childhood friend, Tina. They had grown up in the same neighborhood, shared the same dreams. But now, Tina was in a video with thousands of likes, wearing a designer dress, holding a phone that cost more than Grace earned in 3 months, laughing like the world was hers. Amara sat up straight. Her chest tightened. Her hands shook. She watched the video 5 times. Then she put down her phone, walked inside, and made a decision. She was not going to stay in this place one more season. She was going to the city. She was going to be famous. And nothing, not poverty, not her mother's tears, not even the truth, was going to stop her. If you love real-life stories that teach deep lessons like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button now, because this story will stay with you. Convincing her mother was not easy. Grace sat quietly and listened as Amara spoke about going to the city to stay with her Aunt Rita. Amara talked fast, using words she had rehearsed in her head for days. She said she wanted to learn. She said she wanted to grow. She said the city had more opportunities. She did not mention the cameras. She did not mention the followers. She did not mention Tina. Grace wiped her hands on her wrapper and looked at her daughter for a long time without speaking. That look carried something heavy, a mother's worry, a mother's love, a mother's fear all mixed together. Then she said, "Amara, promise me one thing. Promise me you will help your aunt. Promise me you will not forget who you are." Amara promised. She promised quickly, the way people promise when they are already thinking about what comes after the promise. Grace went quiet again. Then she stood up, went to the small tin where she kept her savings, and counted out every coin she had. She pressed the money into Amara's hands without a word. That silence said more than anything Amara would hear for a very long time. Aunt Rita lived in a small but neat apartment on the edge of the city. She was Grace's younger sister, a working woman who woke early, came home late, and expected the same seriousness from the people under her roof. When Amara arrived with her one bag and her bright eyes, Rita welcomed her warmly. She showed her where to sleep, where to put her things, and told her gently what she expected. "You are here to build your life, not waste it," Rita said. "Help in this house. Find something useful to do. And respect yourself." Amara smiled and nodded. But that very night, after Rita went to bed, Amara was on her phone, searching for Tina's contact, already planning her first move. By the second week, it was clear that Amara had no interest in helping her aunt. Rita would come home to an unwashed kitchen and a niece who had barely moved from her corner, eyes fixed on a glowing screen. When Rita spoke to her, Amara would say, "Yes, auntie," and then go right back to what she was doing. Rita noticed. She was patient, but she was not blind. She could see something was pulling Amara away from reality, something the girl could not explain and would not let go of. She prayed quietly and kept watching, hoping the city would teach Amara what she herself could not. Tina picked up on the first ring. Her voice was warm, excited, full of energy. "Amara, you are in the city. Oh, we must see each other immediately." Within 2 days, Tina came to pick Amara up in a car that belonged to someone else, wearing clothes bought with money she had borrowed, smelling like perfume she could not afford. But Amara did not know any of that. All she saw was the glamour. All she felt was the excitement. All she thought was, "This is where I belong." Tina introduced her to a small group of girls, Sandra, Blessing, and a girl who called herself a Glam. They were all chasing the same dream. They called themselves content creators. But what they created was not real. They borrowed expensive bags and returned them the next morning. They stood in front of hotels they did not stay in, taking pictures. They posted videos of food they did not eat, places they did not live, and lives they did not have. Their followers believed every bit of it. And the followers kept growing. "It is not lying," Tina told Amara one night, laughing. "It is creating a brand." Amara laughed too. She told herself the same thing until she believed it. Amara threw herself into this world completely. She filmed herself in Tina's borrowed outfits. She stood in fancy lobbies and pretended she was staying there. She posted carefully edited videos with music that made everything look magical. She worked hard at it, harder than she had ever worked at anything real. But despite all her effort, her videos got few views. Her follower count barely moved. While Tina and Sandra gained thousands of followers each week, Amara stayed small. People scrolled past her videos without stopping. And every time she refreshed her screen to see the same low numbers, something inside her broke a little more. She became desperate. She started staying up all night studying what made other videos go viral. She changed her look, her voice, her style. Nothing worked. The frustration began to eat her from the inside. She stopped eating properly. She stopped sleeping well. She stopped calling her mother. Every week, Grace sent a short message, "How are you, my daughter? I am thinking of you," and every week, Amara replied with 3 words, "I am fine." She was not fine. But she did not want her mother to know. Because to admit she was struggling would mean admitting she was wrong. And Amara was not ready for that. One evening, the girls sat together after another failed attempt at filming. Sandra was eating groundnuts and scrolling through her phone when she said casually, "You know what videos blow the fastest? Drama. Real-life drama. Something raw. Something shocking. Something that makes people stop and watch with their mouths open." Tina nodded slowly. Blessing agreed. They began to list examples, videos of arguments, embarrassing moments caught on camera, people being humiliated in public. Amara listened carefully. She didn't say much. But inside, her mind was moving fast. "You just need one moment," Glam said, looking at Amara directly. "One moment that people cannot ignore. After that, everything changes. Amara went home that night and lay on her back, staring at the ceiling. She thought about that one moment. She thought about what she was willing to do to get it. She told herself she was not a bad person. She told herself she was just ambitious. She told herself that everyone in this city was doing the same thing in one way or another. These were the lies she fed herself slowly, one spoon at a time, until they felt like the truth. Back home, Grace was beginning to worry in a way she could not hide. It had been almost 6 weeks since she had spoken to Amara on the phone, not just received a text, but truly heard her daughter's voice. She asked neighbors and relatives in the city to check on Amara. No one had seen her. Grace sat in her market stall one afternoon and stared at the food she had cooked, suddenly unable to eat. Something in her chest was pulling, the way a mother's heart pulls when it knows something is wrong even before the mind understands it. She decided she would go to the city herself. She packed a small bag. She wrapped leftover food in foil, fried plantain, rice, and stew, Amara's favorite. She wore her best wrapper, the one she saved for special occasions. She told herself she was not going to worry. She was just going to see her daughter, hug her, make sure she was eating. She told herself Amara was fine. But she held on to the food so tightly during the journey that her knuckles turned pale. That food was not just food. It was love in a container. It was every tired morning and every late night wrapped in foil, given without asking for anything in return. Grace did not know what waited for her at the end of that journey. If she had known, she might not have survived the knowing. Grace arrived in the city on a Saturday morning. She found Aunt Rita's apartment easily and knocked gently. Rita opened the door, and when she saw Grace, her face shifted, not with joy, but with relief that something was finally happening. "Sister, come in." "I am glad you came," Rita said quietly. She did not say more. She did not need to. Grace could read the silence. Amara was not home. She had gone out early to film content with the girls. Grace sat and waited, eating nothing, saying little, just holding her small bag of food on her lap like it was a child. When Amara walked through the door 2 hours later, laughing loudly at something Tina had just said on the phone, she stopped mid-sentence when she saw her mother. The laughter died on her lips. For one long moment, mother and daughter just looked at each other. Grace's eyes filled with water. Amara's face showed something harder to name, shock, guilt, and something else. Something cold. "Amara," Grace said, standing up and opening her arms. "My daughter." She said it the way she had always said it, like the words themselves were made of warmth. Amara walked into the hug stiffly. She did not hold her mother back the way a daughter should. Her arms hung at her sides for a moment before she patted Grace once on the back, like patting a stranger who had caught her off guard. Grace held on longer. She pressed her nose to Amara's hair the way she used to when Amara was small. She was memorizing her daughter. She did not know it then, but she was memorizing her. They sat together and Grace opened the food she had brought. She laid it out carefully on the table. The smell filled the small room, the same smell that had filled their home every morning for as long as Amara could remember. Grace watched Amara eat and smiled the way mothers smile when feeding their children is the greatest joy they know. Amara ate quietly. She did not look up often. Inside, she was already thinking about something else. Outside the window, she could hear Tina's car pulling up slowly. The girls had come back. And they were watching. At this point, what would you have done if you were Amara? Drop your answer in the comments, and if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now, because stories like this don't just entertain, they teach. Tina saw everything through the window before she even entered the apartment. She saw the wrapped food on the table, the wrapper Grace wore, the rough hands, the kind tired face. And an idea entered her mind like a seed thrown into soft ground. She nudged Sandra. Sandra nudged Blessing. They whispered to each other. Then Tina called Amara's phone. Amara excused herself and stepped outside. "Your mother is here," Tina said, not as a question. "She looks like a character." She laughed softly. "Amara, this is your moment. This could be the video that changes everything. A prank. You go back inside, you pretend you don't know her. Act embarrassed. Reject her. We will film it from here." Amara went cold. Something deep in her chest tightened painfully. "She is my mother," she said. But her voice came out small. Almost like a question. Tina spoke again, her voice smooth and persuasive. "It is just a prank. She will laugh about it later. And you will finally be somebody. Is that not what you came here for?" Amara stood in the sun for what felt like a long time. A battle was happening inside her that no one else could see. On one side was her mother, tired, loving, who had pressed every coin she had into Amara's hands without complaint. On the other side was everything Amara wanted to be. The followers. The fame. The feeling of finally matching. She closed her eyes. When she opened them, something in her face had changed. She went back inside. What happened next took only 3 minutes to film. But those 3 minutes would haunt Amara for the rest of her life. She walked into the room where her mother sat and said loudly, for the camera Tina was holding through the window, "Who are you? Why are you in my aunt's house?" Grace looked up, confused. "Amara, it is me. Your mother." Amara shook her head. She acted uncomfortable. She said things she cannot take back. She pretended not to know the woman who had sold rice and stew and fried plantain for 20 years just to give her a life. She performed shame in front of a camera while her mother's face slowly broke apart. Grace said nothing more. She gathered her food quietly. She picked up her bag. And she walked out without a single word. Without a single tear in front of her daughter. She saved her tears for somewhere else. Somewhere private. Somewhere a mother goes to cry when the pain is too big for anyone else to see. The video went up that same evening. Tina edited it perfectly, added music, added funny captions, added moments that made Grace look even more out of place. Amara watched the final cut and felt sick. But she posted it anyway. She told herself it was not too late to delete it. She told herself she would take it down in the morning. She did not sleep that night. By morning, the video had 300,000 views. By afternoon, it had crossed 1 million. By evening, Amara had gained more followers in one day than she had gained in all her previous months online. Her phone was burning with notifications. People were sharing the video everywhere. Amara sat on her bed and stared at the numbers going up and felt something she had never felt before, a terrible, hollow kind of joy. Like biting into a fruit that looks ripe but tastes like ash. She wanted to feel happy. She tried to feel happy. The numbers said she should be happy. But in the silence behind all that noise, she could see her mother's face. The exact moment Grace's eyes understood what was happening. That expression. Amara could not unsee it. Then the comments turned. It did not take long. Someone recognized Grace. Someone who had bought food from her stall knew her face. Comments began to appear, "That is a real mother. That woman sells food at the market. How can she do this to her own mother?" The anger spread fast, the way anger always does online. People who had been laughing were now furious. The same video that had given Amara fame was now being used to destroy her. People called her ungrateful. They called her evil. They called her things that were difficult to read without flinching. Brands that had sent small sponsorship offers withdrew immediately. People reported her account. The followers she had gained began to leave almost as fast as they had arrived. Amara tried to reach her mother. She called Grace's phone 20 times. Grace did not pick up. She sent messages. No reply. She called home and spoke to a neighbor, who told her quietly that Grace had returned from the city and gone straight to her room, and had not come out since. Amara sat on the floor of Aunt Rita's small apartment and held her phone to her chest and felt the full weight of what she had done settle on her like a stone. Aunt Rita sat across from Amara the next morning. Her face was not angry. It was worse than angry. It was disappointed. Rita was a woman who believed in hard things, hard work, hard truth, hard love. And she delivered all three that morning. I watched that video, she said. I watched you look at your mother like she was nothing. Like the woman who carried you, who fed you, who counted every coin she had to send you here, like she was a stranger who had bothered you. Amara could not speak. Pack your things, Rita said quietly. Not because I am throwing you out, but because I cannot help someone who does not want to be helped. Tina stopped coming around after the second day. Sandra stopped responding to messages. Blessing changed her profile picture and never mentioned the video again. Even Glam, who had never cared about anything deeply, sent a short message that said simply, "That was too far." The circle that had felt so solid, so full of laughter and light and possibility, dissolved like it had never existed. Amara was left alone in a way she had never been alone before, not the quiet alone of an evening without company, but the hollow alone of realizing that no one who mattered was coming back. Your mother did not raise you to be who you were in that video, she said. She raised you to be better. Go and be better. Amara nodded. Her throat was too tight to speak. The journey home felt longer than the journey away had felt. On the way to the city, Amara had been full of excitement, full of plans, full of the kind of hope that comes before experience teaches you anything. Now she sat with her hands in her lap and watched the scenery change from city to town to familiar road, and every mile brought her closer to the face she was most afraid to see. She had rehearsed what she would say. She had imagined her mother opening the door, imagined herself falling at her knees, imagined Grace pulling her up and saying all is forgiven. She had made it beautiful in her head. But real life is never as clean as the version we rehearse. When Amara pushed open the door of their home, Grace was sitting by the window. She had not heard her daughter come in. She was looking outside at nothing in particular, the way people look when they are thinking about something they cannot stop thinking about. She had grown thinner. There were dark circles under her eyes. The woman who had always woken before the sun and moved through life with quiet strength looked smaller now, not physically, but in some deeper way. As if a light inside her had been turned down low. Amara stood in the doorway and her rehearsed speech disappeared completely. All that came out was one word. Mama. And it came out broken. Grace turned slowly. She looked at her daughter. And then something extraordinary happened, something Amara had not expected, something that would stay with her longer than any viral video, longer than any follower count, longer than any number on a screen. Grace opened her arms. Not quickly. Not easily. She opened them the way someone opens a door they thought they would never open again, carefully, painfully, with full knowledge of how much it cost. And Amara ran across the room and fell into them and held on with everything she had. Grace did not say "I told you so." She did not list what Amara had done. She held her daughter and rocked her slowly, the way she had rocked her as a baby, and she said, "You came home. That is enough. You came home." The forgiveness was not loud. It was not dramatic. It did not trend online. It happened quietly, between two people, in a small room, far from any camera. And it was the most real thing Amara had ever been part of. Rebuilding was slow. Trust does not return the way followers do, it does not double overnight, it does not respond to a good edit or the right caption. Grace went back to her store. Amara went with her. She woke up before the sun. She lifted heavy pots. She served customers with her mother's quiet dignity. People in the neighborhood knew what had happened. Some looked at her with pity, some with judgment, some with the uncomfortable kindness of people who are glad it was someone else's daughter and not their own. Amara bore every look without complaint. She had spent so long running from hard things that she had forgotten hard things were the only things that built anything worth keeping. Slowly, the market stall became her classroom. Her mother became her teacher. And the simple life she had once hated became the only life she truly wanted. Months later, Amara made one final video. She sat in front of her phone with no filter, no borrowed clothes, no edited background. Just herself and the truth. She told everything. Not for fame. Not for followers. For the girl watching somewhere who was about to make the same mistake she made. That video did not go viral. It got a few thousand views. But every single comment was from someone saying, "This is exactly what I needed to hear." For the first time, the numbers on a screen did not matter to Amara. What mattered was sitting 10 feet away, in a wrapper and kitchen slippers, humming softly while she cooked. And for the first time in a long time, Amara looked up from her phone, set it face down on the table, and simply listened to her mother hum. Before you go, think carefully about this. If the person who loves you most in this world, the one who woke up early for you, sacrificed for you, and never asked for anything in return, were standing right in front of you today, would they be proud of the choices you are making to impress people who do not even know your name? If this story touched you in any way, don't just scroll away. Subscribe now for more powerful stories like this, because sometimes, one story can change the way you see life. And before you go, ask yourself this: are you living for people who will forget you, or for the ones who truly love you?